Welcome to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality, a show designed to share spiritual insights with you so that you can comprehend the universe and how it functions. You are about to experience raised consciousness. This is a place where spiritual principles are shared with the goal of assisting you to expand your understanding of both the seen and unseen worlds. Luminescence Common Sense Spirituality helps you to discern the timeless truths handed down from wise sages through the ages, from the airy-fairy nonsense that is being taught today. Now, here is your host, Lynn Wyeth.
Welcome to Luminescence Common Sense Spirituality, the radio show that disseminates esoteric knowledge and common sense spirituality. I'm Lynn Wyeth, creator of namology science, the ability to know all about a person's personality and the soul's purpose from a person's name. Now, the beautiful inspirational song you just heard is called Shine, and it's by Dee Lemur. And if you would like to hear more of her music, you can find her on her website, dlemur.com. It's DLEMOR.com. Our topic today is, what are soul contracts and how do they relate to past lives? What is the best way to work with a soul contract? How do contracts differ from agreements? What can we do to make the contract work more in our favor? Does having a soul contract indicate you have a soul mate? Does our contract say that when we'll be called to the other side of the veil? There's a lot of questions all about soul contracts and what they really imply for us while we're here on Earth. Our special guest today is Susan Klopfstein. Now, Susan Klopfstein is a soul scientist, a psychotherapist, a spiritual healer, and the founder of Soulwealth. It's a healing process that begins where the psychotherapy leaves off. Susan graduated Summa Cum Laude with an MA in clinical psychology from the National University in Irvine, California. She's dedicated more than 20 years to developing and mastering her Soulwealth healing techniques, which identify the unique spiritual wealth of information, knowledge, and experience that's held in the heart of every person. In addition, Susan is a career counselor who helps clients identify their intelligence type, their relational gifts, their communicational styles, and their functional talents to define their joy life and their life purpose. Now, uncovering this wealth of information heals and transforms the soul's path, which leads to a soul's trajectory of a life of fulfilling relationships, purposeful mission, and abundant financial returns. Now, Susan's not afraid of dysfunction and is prepared to tackle any client's challenge. She's considered a medical intuitive. She launched her healing career as an intern, assessing dual diagnosis clients suffering from addictions and personality disorders at the Orange County Clinic in Costa Mesa, California. She also interned at Laguna Beach Community Clinic as a marriage and family therapist, working with couples, children, and families on crisis recovery issues. Working in a private practice with Dr. Wayne Hart, she gained valuable experience counseling patients with dissociative and personality disorders. Now, as the former communications and marketing manager for Toshiba America, Susan uses her business experience to help clients running companies improve their business plans. So she did a whole lot with Toshiba, and so if you just want business acumen and that kind, looking from a soul's perspective, she can also give that to you. So Susan's name indicates that she can learn anything once the foundation's been taught to her, which I think is quite incredible. Susan, welcome to Luminescence Common Sense Spirituality.
Hello. Thank you so much for such a lovely introduction. It's just such a compliment. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me onto this show. It's just delightful. I work with so many clients, and one of the ways that I mentioned to you before that we work is by reviewing some of their contracts and sometimes changing their contracts, and sometimes even looking at sacred covenants and how they're set up and changing. I have some great information that was even new to me as I was really meditating this last week on the concept of sacred covenants and how they differ from contracts and agreements.
So, for us how you understand that to be?
Well, a soul contract is a contract. We have many contracts. But essentially, if we were to look at God's contract, right? God is a covenant. And actually, the word is covenant. He has not plural covenant, like plural, but a covenant, which is an agreement not just to create us, but to love, because we are of His heart. We are an outpost of who He is. We are created in His image, and we are of His heart. It becomes critical because if you understand that, then we understand that sometimes simple agreements, the contracts that people create for themselves, are really
Okay, so is a covenant, I don't understand how a contract is different than a covenant. Susan, your output is not clear. It's very hard to understand you. Okay. Susan, we're not hearing you well at all. Would you please hang up and call in on the number that we gave you so that we can hear you clearly? Because we're not hearing you clearly at all, Susan. We're missing everything that you're saying. Would you mind hanging up and starting again? It would be so nice. In the meantime, okay, I would like to go ahead and talk to you about covenants and soul contracts while we're waiting for Susan to call back in because she's not coming through clearly at all, which is disappointing at best. Our topic today is what are soul contracts and how do they relate to past lives? Now, a soul contract is something that you've made an agreement with Spirit that you're going to come down and do. And to my understanding, if you fail to do that, there's a consequence. Now, is it a horrible consequence? Does it cost you time or money or whatever? And the answer is no. What it does is if you don't meet your soul contract, what you've agreed to do, you've got to come back again and do it again the next time. It's like a do-over lifetime. So for souls that are wanting to progress and souls that are wanting to continue as rapidly as possible, you want to fulfill everything in your contract because you don't want that added to future incarnations because it still needs to be experienced. On the other hand, soul agreements are things that you've made an agreement that this would be nice to do, and you're willing to do it when you're still on the spirit side. And when you come down into embodiment, you can change your mind and there's no consequence. So it's not like now you've got karmic retributions for it, or you've still got to do it, or you've really blown something for somebody else. It's like it's an agreement, and you come down and you can renegotiate the agreements. Now, does that mean you cannot renegotiate the soul contracts? The answer to that is no. You can, but you have to know how. And that's what we would like to get from Susan when she comes back online for us. So Susan's a medical intuitive. I have known her for almost 30 years now and watched her be able to make such a difference in people's lives, especially where it comes to health, that it's just been incredible. And her way of looking at spiritual context, what happens, is very deep compared to the rest of us. So, Susan, let's start again, please. Okay? What are soul contracts?
The soul contracts are contracts that we have made from our spirit to incarnate on earth and to have certain karmic issues or certain Akashic records, to meet certain relationships and work through certain things, to learn and to grow. Every person is here to do a number of things. They're either here to heal themselves, heal their karma. They're here to help and support someone else that is here to heal themselves or heal karma, or they're here to do important work. And then there is that 1% of the Earth's population that is here on mission, which is direct work for God. Yes? And with that understanding, those are the core of the soul contracts that we make in this lifetime.
So you said 1% are on mission. When I'm doing names interpretations, I want to say that it usually shows up that there's about 2%, but I don't want to argue over techniques because it's very little. That's what we need to get across. Very few people are here on mission, and that may be a relief that everybody else is here for their own contract and what they need to do for them. And they also have agreements with others. Talk to us about the difference between contracts and agreements.
Contracts they're almost immutable. You know, put your hand in front of your face, look at your hand, and it is what it is, right? It's there. You're not going to skirt it in a lifetime short of a serious illness, a serious accident, or a change of plans beyond what was conceived for you in this lifetime. An agreement can be any agreement that we make in order to heal, to grow, to learn, to make life a little bit easier. It can be anything. In fact, I have a number of examples, which I'll get to, but there are some fascinating different types of contracts and covenants.
So what's the difference between a contract and a covenant? Please explain what you mean by covenant.
A covenant is what we have that is an agreement with God. Even more important, our very birth here, our very incarnation on earth is literally a covenant with God. We exist here on earth because He wants us to be here. It is one of the greatest covenants that we have, yes?
Okay, so a covenant is like immutable, and is a contract, you said it's rare or it's very hard to change it. How would you go about changing it, and why would you want to if that was a possibility?
How would you go about changing it?
Would it be prayer work?
I think definitely with prayer, but I think one thing that you need to look at is where you are in life, and is there a reason that contracts that you have may or may not work? Yes? It could be that they don't work because there is, you might have a curse. You might have Satanism, sorcery, shamanism, voodoo, black magic on anything of that nature, which can block a contract. It may be that you've made a contract and no matter what you do, it will not move forward. Maybe you've made a contract with a business and the business has never flourished. It's never taken root. Maybe you have a contract with to have a child, but you had an illness early in life and you cannot have a child. So that child is going to come through someone else before you can recognize that child and adopt it. Yes? So sometimes we have contracts that we really need to look at carefully and decide, can we go forward with that contract as it's written, or nothing moves forward in your life? And you know people like this. No matter what they do, nothing will move forward. And it's simply because their contracts don't work. And I believe that when someone's contract for work or for children or for marriage or some area like that is not working, then it's time to pray that God, right, or guardian angels, guides, and teachers, or your master world leader, be that Jesus or Moses or El Shaddai, whoever is your master world leader, that you talk to them about creating a new contract. Contracts that will be as healing and reparative to you as the old one was either a null point or a void point. Yes?
Okay, understandable. And this is our time that we're breaking for our first commercial break. And when we come back, we'll find out more about contracts and agreements from Susan and how to make the contracts work in our favor. Stay tuned.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
I'm Kathy Williams, host of Sexy Mom Abundant Life radio show on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. On the show, we explore living abundantly in every area of your life. Ways to let go of limiting patterns and beliefs and to step into the flow of creativity and possibility, knowing you are supported by the universe.
Susan Klopfstein created an incredible spiritual practice called Soulwealth that releases blockages from your life. Curses, trauma, karma, old commitments and contracts dissolve. Significant health issues, negative beliefs, unhealthy relationships, and destructive behavioral patterns simply fade away. All of the obstructions that no longer serve you on your life path simply dissipate, making possible a more joyous, fulfilling life. Contact Susan Klopfstein at soulwealth.com for a most loving, spiritual soul wealth session.
These are the sounds of a dinner that almost didn't happen. A dinner now served, thanks to people like you. Due to COVID-19, 17 million more Americans may face hunger. Feeding America is helping our neighbors in need. And if you're able, you can too. Donations are being accepted at feedingamerica.org/coronavirus. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Feeding America, 200 Food Bank strong.
Welcome back to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality. I'm your host, your own Lynn Wyeth, and our special guest today is Susan Klopfstein. Now, Susan, we were talking about how contracts differ from agreements. So how do we make a contract work more in our favor?
Firstly, I think that know that all contracts, when we're looking at contracts, they are always to work in the favor of all people involved, right? They are to work to the benefit of every individual. Even in growing, if I were to look at some covenants that I look at on a daily basis, okay? Let's take marriage covenants because they're really funny. There are sacred covenants where we've got partners of light, and you look at Adam and Eve, and you look at Mary and Joseph and Aquila and Priscilla, and they tend to look alike and carry opposite or talents or the balance of talents that make them balanced in life. But then there are these soul partners of darkness, right? Probably like Mary Magdalene and her first husband. And usually one of the partner is not necessarily in the light, and the other partner is carrying the relationship. They may have the partner that's not in the light may have many karmas, many immorality.
Okay, hold on a minute. You're starting to come through not clear for us again. If you're on a phone, would you please plug it in or make sure that it's good because you're not clear again? You must be having a really bad storm where you're living up there in Maine.
Well,
Okay, I'm going to talk for just a minute so you can hang up and call back in because we'd really like to hear this. Okay, Susan kind of just gave me a shocker, and she said Mary Magdalene's first husband. And I thought, oh, did any of us know that Mary Magdalene had more than one husband at a time? And wouldn't we like to hear more about that? And that answer is yes, I want to find out when she comes back what she knows about that and how she knows that. So, in other words, making a contract work more for us in our favor or our agreement. First, it really is helpful if you know what your contract is. Okay? We want to know what our contract is so that we can keep going forward. If we know that in able to get the most out of our life, we fulfill certain things, then that's important to us to know ahead of time, because if not, we're hitting in the dark. It's kind of like saying balls are being thrown at us, but we don't know which ones we're supposed to hit and which ones we're supposed to hit out of the ball field. Instead, we just know there's all these balls and we can be picking them up, and we could waste our time picking up the wrong balls instead of going after the ones that are, I want to say color-coded, the ones where it absolutely intended for us. So that's a very interesting thing of first knowing what your contract is. Now, the different guests that I have on my show, all of us can figure out what your contract is with God for this lifetime. To me, it sits in your name, and you just read the combinations in your name, and it's there. For different people, like Susan, who's a medical intuitive, she looks in it on the souls merging, and she looks at the soul contract from that viewpoint. Susan Rowland, who was on last week, she gets it from talking to people on the other side of the veil. Pat Robertson-Rice, who's coming on next week, she gets it from asking specific questions and going through an entire process that she created, just like I created Namology Science. And she gets it also, and she's very accurate. So any of us can get that soul contract for you if you're interested in knowing exactly what it is. But if you want to do your best with your soul contract, the first step is always knowing what my soul contracted for is always the most helpful step. Okay, Susan, you were saying how to get the best out of our contracts. Go ahead and finish that up for us, please.
Well, for marriage contracts, when you know that you're married to a partner, and that partner, it may be your soul partner, but that person is not necessarily of the light. What you can do is, for example, we have prayed that God please ease some of the karmic issues of that person, or cut some of them out for this lifetime because it's too hard to work with, right? There are other people that have soulmates of light, and they do well together. That they may not have a soul partner on earth, but they're two soulmates that are walking in harmony, and yet their lives are too divergent because they weren't scheduled to be together in this lifetime. And then we pray for ways that we can make their contracts a bit easier, that they can have more commonality, that their circumstances, their geography, their work can be more common, if that makes sense. So that's a fun thing to do too. And there are other contracts that are relational contracts. Sharon, they can be an absolute scream. For example, multiple contracts. When you've got twins, sometimes you've got one twin they're there for the most part to keep the other twin alive, because the other twin may be a little engineer. And every time you turn around, he's got a switch box open, or he's got a welding tool in his hand or something. And if he didn't have a twin walking with him that said, "Mom, has got this fire wand in his hand, and he's not playing with me," and you go, "Oh my gosh," if you don't, it's a very unusual relationship, but you've got all of these interesting relationships that are focused on keeping the other person alive. Yes? I mean, yes. There are some fun contracts out there, siblings and blood brother-sister contracts, families. Some families are a real scream. They're all doing the same work. In my family, there are a lot of therapists. There are a lot of lawyers. Yes?
So does having a soul contract indicate that you automatically have a soulmate?
No. Some people do not have soulmates. They don't have soul partners that they're meant to marry. Some people have soul partners in heaven that are not incarnated with them in this lifetime. Some people in heaven, they are androgynous. They are neither male or female, and they don't have a partner at all. We have a lot of people on earth right now that are androgynous, and they don't know whether they're male or female because in heaven they're neither. They're a equal balance of each, so they don't have a partner. There are other people whose soul partner are literally in a place of abdication of God, yes, or rejected by God, even worse. And they don't have a partner here on earth. They have a soulmate that they're going to have a relationship with or play with, but it's not the same as a soul partner. And that's a time when some people that I've worked with say, Heavenly Father, can I have a new soul partner? Can we negotiate for a new soul partner for me? And that is a great contract shift as well.
Okay, you just said some people, Susan, you just said some people are rejected by God. I need to know more about that. We always think God takes everybody. So what do you mean some people are rejected?
No, that is not true. And it says that in the Bible that some people are not. For example, I think that there are some sins that can be very grievous. Some types of idolatry can be very grievous. For example, satanic rituals. God is not going to easily accept someone who is a worshiper of a dark being. And in addition, for those that shed the blood of others, those that murder others, consider we're made in the image of God. And therefore, for people that commit murder intentionally, they will do karmic work before they are accepted by God again.
That is most fascinating. Okay, so one of the things you said before we had telephone problems again was that Mary Magdalene's first marriage. Okay, now all my ears perked up. So I want to hear about Mary Magdalene's first marriage versus a second marriage. Was there a third marriage? I mean, now we need to know.
Well, I think the first marriage was probably a husband of infidelities, right, and was bored with her, and so he pushed her out. Now, she was accused of infidelities, right?
Right.
Whether she really committed them or not, I think it's hard to know, but it could very, very well consider Mary Magdalene was one of the first Marys that Jesus made himself visible to when he rose from the dead. And therefore, it could very well be that this was a wife of Jesus.
You mean a later wife?
Yep. I know what you mean. You mean Miraku being perhaps his first wife in Egypt. Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So you're saying, okay, I want to know the timing here. So you're saying that when I call him Yeshua, but when he met Mary Magdalene, and there was that big scene in the Bible that was recorded, was she married at the time, or she was already divorced from the first marriage, and therefore people might call her a harlot because she'd gotten a divorce?
Right. Well, in those days, if a Jewish man rejected his wife, then she was classified as divorced from him. Yes? Therefore, she would have been free. For someone like Jesus who might have been looking for a wife, might have been a widower at that time.
Okay, so this is all fascinating, and I know it's not our topic today, but I've got one more question for you first before we go back to our topic. And that is, so was Miraku the woman at the well? And that's why they have in the Bible the showing of the wine, and because it was the tradition at the time that the groom's people always supply enough wine for everybody that came to the party, and that's why we have that scene. Is that scene complicit with his marriage to Miraku?
It could be. That's not proven to me. That's not unequivocally proven to me. I think the relevance here is that his mother was the one that initiated him to do his first public miracle. Whether that was his wedding, it would have been a wedding for his family member. But I'm not sure whether it was his wedding or he met Miraku when he was learning about the religion of Ra. And probably also, if you think even before Egypt, he would have understood and studied in Egypt the religion of the Law of One, which would have been the religion of Atlantis, because that religion might have been foundational for the Christian religion, which came later. But he also would have been a master of the 7 major religions at that time, which would put him traveling extensively. It definitely put him right in Egypt, learning the law of Ra, the religion of Ra, and then on, because he would have had to go to the area of England for the religion of the Druids. He would have had to go to India for the religion for the Hindu religion. He would have gone on to the Buddhist religion. He would have studied the Muslim religion. He was extensively
Muslim religion must have come afterwards. The Muslim religion didn't exist yet. It came after.
It came after, but you have the predecessor of it, which would have been the Moor religion.
So for those of you that are listening that want more information on the education of Yeshua and what he studied in the 7 religions at the time, the most beautiful book I've ever read about that is called 9 Faces of Christ, and it's by Dr. Eugene Whitworth. And then Dr. Whitworth wrote 5 books all on the same type of topics. So I would find his books fascinating for you if you're fascinated by this topic of the various marriages and what Yeshua studied and the missing years in his life. Very well documented. Dr. Whitworth would not put anything in the book if he could not find the documentation for it somewhere. And Dr. Whitworth traveled to India and all through the Middle East looking for documentation in very old files. And he spoke the ancient scriptic languages like Sanskrit and Hebrew and Aramaic and the different ancient languages, so he could read all those ancient texts. So everything in his book is documented by ancient texts, or he wouldn't put it in. And in fact, in 9 Faces of Christ that he wrote about this topic that we got off on, he literally held up the book's printing for a few years because he wanted to find exactly what kind of oil was put on Jesus's feet at the time. When they say that the other disciples, put oil on his feet, and he wanted to be able to name the oil, and until he could find substantiated proof of what kind, which he wanted to put in, he held up the printing of the book for that. So for those of you that are interested, it's 9 Faces of Christ by Dr. Eugene Whitworth. Okay, Susan, coming back. Does our contract tell us when we're going to be called to the other side of the veil? In other words, when we're going to die? Or is that optional? Is that changeable? Talk to us about that one.
Each person has a number of times that they can die in their life contract, their life path contract, which is fascinating. Some people might have...
Okay, so we're going to hold it right here for just a minute, Susan, because you're not coming through clearly again, and I need you to hang up and call back in one more time. And we're going to go into our commercial break after just a moment of this. In somebody's name, while Susan's calling back, in somebody's name, it's like there's this freeway of life that you're on. And then you have, everybody puts in 2 to 3. Occasionally I've seen names that put in more. That they put in what I want to call the hardest years or the off-ramps. So if you're on the freeway of life and you're driving, you cannot get off until there's an exit ramp. And the only way you do get off earlier than an exit ramp is when you have a crash. And then you bother everybody around you, you inconvenience everybody around you, and other people have to come get you and help you out. And a crash to me is like a suicide that you're getting out prior to the exit ramp. But you have built-in exit ramps, and everybody does. It's indicated in the birth name when those are. Thank you. And those are the time periods where they're the toughest years, and you reassess, do I want to stay or do I want to go? Okay. Susan, start again for us. Hopefully that you're clear this time.
We do have a number of exit clauses, if you will, or death dates in our life path. And I see some people may only have one. They're not working on that in this lifetime. But other people may have 7 or 8. And they also have them, if they have tough contracts and they're going to be approaching in this and working in this lifetime with someone who has killed them in past lifetime, then that shows up as a potential death date in this lifetime, the time that they are working with that person of danger that has killed them in past lifetime, because certainly they could do it again in this lifetime. I have lost 2 brothers who went through that same type of contract. Both were killed by people that killed them in past lifetime.
Hold that thought. We're coming back to our next break, and we're going to be talking more about this when we come back, about our possible times when we leave and how that's determined when we come back from this break from Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality. Stay tuned.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Mark Twain said the 2 most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. The why is hidden in your name. Sharon Lynn Wyeth has created a scientific way of deciphering your name to reveal your contract for this lifetime. And your name even specifies the 7 areas that are subsets of your soul's overall goal. Your name identifies who you are to both yourself and others. What does your name say about you? Contact Sharon Lynn Wyeth at info@knowthename.com for your stunning name review.
The United States has the highest rate of incarceration in the world. At the Equal Justice Initiative, we believe mass incarceration has to end. There is this presumption of dangerousness and guilt that gets assigned to Black and brown people. We have to confront our history of racial injustice and commit to a new era of truth. There's something better waiting for us, something that feels more like freedom. Truth can inspire change. Please learn more at eji.org.
Welcome back to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality. I'm your host, Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and our special guest today is Susan Klopfstein, who can be reached at soulwealth.com. If you'd like to continue your conversations with her, have an appointment with her, the easiest way is by going to soulwealth.com. Okay, Susan, we were talking about right before the break that your 2 brothers had this experience of meeting somebody that had killed them in a past life, and then it occurred again. So you were saying that there's, like, I know in a name that it's planned in where the exit points are and the possibilities are, where they can, reassess life. Is it worth staying or is it worth going? Which way do you want to go? And usually that only lasts 1 year in the names. But you were saying that there's more times, because when you also, besides those times, when you also meet somebody who has killed you in a past life, again, attempting, I would think, to work out the karma or make balance, that can also cause you to exit in this lifetime, not by choice, but by somebody else's choice, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Correct. It's called a playthrough karma, where we literally are giving them an opportunity to heal their karma. The problem is that sometimes they just don't. And then it's, frequently people do pass. It's a very, very tough thing. We also have many people who are struggling with disease states that they've had in past lifetime. For example, you and I have a lovely client, Miri, who is, she's gone through 3 death states already on her life path, fighting cancer. And I think she's going to come out of it this time, but she's got many exit points on her life path with cancer.
Yeah, and God bless her. I hope she makes it. She's a lovely person.
Yeah.
In our contracts, okay, is there a goal date where we say by this date we're going to be done and then we're going to get ready to leave? Or is that an optional date that says, okay, by this date I'm planning on being done, but then I may choose to stick around and help everybody around me that I really care about?
Oh, I think that we can stick around. Sometimes we can stick around. I know that in Pat Robinson Rice's work, she will say you're going to make a very important decision at 92. Well, you and I, we've had a mentor that stayed with us until he was 98. And he had us on for many, many years, right? Eugene Whitworth. And
yes.
And he extended his contract to help those around him. Yes, it's a great example.
Okay, so and for those of you who want to know, Pat Robertson Rice is our guest next week, so you get to hear her on her own. So, Susan, since our topic today is contracts and agreements, do we make all of our agreements ahead of time before we come, or are we making agreements also when we're here? And how do those agreements change? Like, let's say we made an agreement before we came and we got here, and we went, we didn't know the circumstances, we don't want that agreement. How does that work?
Agreements, those can be easily reworked in this lifetime. In fact, agreements are like the cucaracha of contracts. Just let's wing it in this life. Let's wing it with this. Let's try it with that. And you can go, okay, I've got agreements that are with the approval, the resources, the support of Source, and you're praying to him because you need his support, or those with the approval, the support of the Elohim or the deputy gods, the divine beings, the archangels that you work with. Or sometimes agreements can be directly with a source, a soul, a spirit, who support us, and they may or may not have the direct approval or support of Source or the Elohim. But I'll tell you, the ones that have the inclusion of your guidance team, if you will, work much better. And you can make agreements about almost anything on earth that you want to ask, anything on earth that you want to do that's good, anything that you want to do with each other within the law that's good, just about anything that you want to do with a church or a temple or in your spiritual work, all that is good. If you make those agreements with a good heart, usually guidance are very, very prayerful to try to help you to execute those agreements. There can be very different ones. For example, some people, I've known people that just said, well, we don't like the religion. We're raised, Baptist, but we don't like it. We want a religion that's more family-centered and more peaceful, more intellectual. So the whole family decided to become Jewish. I mean, my goodness, they had to go to extensive learning. They had to take many classes, learn a new language, incorporate a new lifestyle, learn new holidays, but they did it with the support of their guidance, yes. And then there are others to live in community. Sharon, you had a big one, boy, when you took out an agreement to go to Oregon. Oregon was not immediately on your life path, but it gave you you had a nice home there, a nice job, and gave you the opportunity to pull down some Akashic records which you had not even necessarily planned to do in this lifetime, and do a lot of playthrough. Give other people a lot of opportunity to play through their karmas and heal them with you. Yes? It was very heroic on your part.
I don't know if it was very heroic. It was quite a challenge while I was there. But just so that everybody listening understands, I was a vice principal of a school and got to deal with a lot of families. Susan, in these agreements that we make, is it possible to be making new agreements with people that will not be fulfilled until another time period, not in this life? Could we be doing that while we're living this lifetime?
You know, absolutely. The question took me back, but I can tell you that there are times for me with people that have passed that I continue to heal them as people that are clients, people that are my family members, where I ask God to work with me to heal them because I have learned something new. And I want to assure that they are healed from a certain issue before they ever incarnate again. Yes? So yes. I know that you can do that. And you know, I know that there was years ago I had a most interesting case that you worked with me on. And it came totally out of the blue. And it was an incredible firefighter or pastor in New York City. He was both a firefighter and a pastor. He called after 911.
Oh, your telephone is working and mangling up again. And as much as we'd like to hear this story, know that for everyone who's listening, and Susan, I want to thank you for being on, because by the time you call back in, we'll be completing this hour. And we hope that in 2 months' time, because Susan's one of our regulars, she will be on in every odd month, every even month, the second week of every even month, just like this is February, it's an even month. She will be on with us again in April, the second week, and we will be taking new topics. And if there's something that you would like to ask Susan and make sure that she answers for you, please give me an email at info@knowthename.com, and it's KNOW. And you can just send that to me at info@knowthename.com. I always have plenty of my own questions, but if you send me a question, I want to make sure that that is also getting answered when we have our guests on. It is very important as we are listening to different guests and seeing how they work with spirit and how they look at our world, to look at ourselves and say what resonates within our hearts and what does not resonate in our hearts. It's like, what part do we understand? What part says, yes, that validates or is along the same line as how I'm already believing and what my understanding is? And what parts just absolutely shock us and we go, wait a minute. It's just like what Susan said about the first wife of Mary Magdalene. And I hadn't even considered that previously. So now I want to go read some more and see different people's points of view on that and see how that resonates within myself. When I'm doing my meditation now, I will put out that question. It's important for all of you to do the same thing. And we can give you good resources, like I mentioned, Dr. Eugene Whitworth's book. I can give you good resources because I've been an avid reader over all of these years. If you have a particular topic that you would like to know about, just give me an email, info@knowthename.com. I'll be glad to lead you to the book or the books that I have found to be the most accurate on that particular topic. The other thing I would quickly like to say is that on March 1st, we're doing a Facebook Live. It's 8 o'clock in the morning for the Pacific time zone people, but it's 11 a.m. in the morning for Eastern time zone people, and that is because it has to be a decent time in Israel for my co-host Rena, and she and I are doing a Facebook Live to tell you some things about names that could help you, just a brief introduction on how names work and how interpreting of them work, and then she has developed a way of remembering people's names after you've met them, and she's going to be sharing some of that. And that is like a precursor or a lead-in to a longer seminar where we literally teach you a lot of skills that'll be done on March 4th at the same time, 8 a.m. in the morning for Pacific, 11 a.m. for Eastern, and so that makes it like 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. I think it's 6 p.m. in Israel. And then, of course, if you sign up for the seminar and you're not able to make it at that particular time, you will have lifelong access to the recording, okay? And so anybody who does take the seminar, whether you attend that day or not, you'll have lifetime access to the recording. If you'd like more information on that, it's on knowthename.com on the schedule page. Just go to March 1st and March 4th, and you can get the information, or just send us an email at info@knowthename.com. And I so appreciate your patience with us as we had quite a few telephone problems today, typical for Mercury retrograde. And know that I always like to close our fabulous show with the beautiful inspirational song called Shine by Dee L'Amour. Thank you for listening.
Gazing in the mirror, an image of an angel smiling back at her. No wounds or imperfections, just beauty and its glow. Her laughter and her heart, a reflection of her soul. And I want to shine like the sun and smile to stop the rain. And I want to dance with the wind and believe in dreams again. Of light stroke the canvas of her, the light slightly dimmed, her reflection unseen, and all that she knew